Hello, Namaste, Guten Tag. First of all, I wish you all a happy World Sanskrit Day. Shubham Sanskrit Dinam.
Divasam.
Subha Sanskrit Divasam.
Divasam.
Ladies and gentlemen, accomplished speakers, esteemed guests, and fellow lovers of knowledge who are joining today via different medium, I extend a gracious welcome on behalf of the Friends of Indian Diaspora as the founder of this platform. In today's event, moderation will be conducted in English and Hindi due to the international platform. This decision to moderate the event in English ensures that a broader range of audience has an opportunity to gain insightful impression about Sanskrit. The speakers are given freedom to choose their preferred language of communication. It is both an honor and privilege to address each of you today. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. 𝗪𝗺 𝗏𝐺, Devi Lal Sharma, and Ravi Saha, who have joined us today. Today, we gather to celebrate and pay homage to a language that holds an irreplaceable place in the annals of human history and culture. Celebrated on Shraavana Poornima, the full moon day of the Shravan month in the Hindu calendar, which is this year correspond to August 31st. Sanskrit, often referred to as an Indo-Aryan language, is more than just a collection of words. It is a repository of wisdom and an embodiment of the essence of our civilization. It is a language that bridges the gap between science and literature, and it does so with unparalleled precision. Sanskrit as a language is unique because it effortlessly straddles the realms of science and literature. While scientific languages depend heavily on denotation, focusing on precise meaning, literary language thrives on connotation, creating imaginary and emotions. Sanskrit astonishingly has mastered both. It is a language that allows us to express complex scientific ideas with the same eloquence and beauty as it does in the realms of literature. Sanskrit boasts the largest vocabulary of any language, which allows it to express and intricate ideas with precision. Once NASA scientist Rick Briggs said that Sanskrit is the only unambiguous language in existence, and this speaks volume about its potential in the realm of scientific communication. Sanskrit is not just a language. It is a storehouse of ancient knowledge, including Vedic mathematics. The roots of mathematics as we know them today can be traced back to the mathematical treatises written in Sanskrit. One of the remarkable features of Sanskrit is its a highly organized grammatical structure. Even phonetically, the arrangement of vowels and the consonants allows a scientific pattern that enhances its clarity and precision. It is said that Sanskrit requires the minimum number of words to convey a message, making it a language of incredibly efficiency. Furthermore, Sanskrit has minimum alphabets, slokas, which are poetically verses often used in the ancient scripture. These verses are not only aesthetically pleasing, but also rich in meaning, making them a testament to the linguistic artistry of Sanskrit. Today, we are honored to be joined by a distinguished panel of speakers who will provide in-depth insight and elaborate on a aforementioned subject matter. For those attending a FOID event for the first time, I would like to provide a very brief overview about our initiative. FOID is a platform that brings together individuals with diverse interests and needs, enabling them to join to society in various domains such as culture, professional, educational, recreational, and social matters. Our mission encompasses bridging the gap between people residing abroad and those in India, fostering cohesive engagement, Over time, FOID has organized numerous events, including but not limited to Indian languages, Indian State Foundation Days, Indian Engineers Days, Doctors Days, Advocates Day, Chess Tournament, International Friendship Day, International Yoga Day, and so on. So whoever is watching us, listening us today or in the future, request all of you to join this initiative and make a difference. So now I would switch in Hindi. So कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाते हुए अब मैं डॉक्टर अरुणा नार्लिकर जी को आमंत्रित करना चाहूंगा, जो हैम्बर्ग जर्मनी से जुड़ रही हैं। आपने अंग्रेजी साहित्य में पीएचडी एवं यौगिक साइंस में सीनियर डिप्लोमा किया है। संस्कृत आपको अपने विरासत में अपनी माँ से मिली और संस्कृत से जुड़ाव आज तक जारी है। हिंदी, मराठी व अंग्रेजी भाषाओं पर भी आपका प्रभुत्व है। आप तीनों भाषाओं में लिखती हैं। हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया सहित अनेक जाने माने पत्र पत्रिकाओं में आपके आलेख, समीक्षाएं, विदेशों में संस्मरण एवं अनुभव, कविताएं, बाल साहित्य आदि प्रकाशित होते रहे हैं। झिलमिलाते इंद्रधनुष इनका प्रकाशित कविता संग्रह है। ऑक्सफोर्ड प्रेस से अंग्रेजी में प्रकाशित महाभारत पर लिखी पुस्तक इनकी बहुत ही चर्चित है। अनेक पुरस्कारों से सम्मानित डॉक्टर नार्लिकर ने प्रिंट मीडिया के अलावा भारत के नेशनल दूरदर्शन और अन्य टीवी चैनलों पर कला, संस्कृति, शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, योग, बच्चों एवं महिलाओं के मुद्दों पर परिचर्चा एवं एंकरिंग का भी व्यापक और दीर्घ अनुभव है। मैं एक बार फिर से जिक्र करना चाहूंगा कि आपकी नई पुस्तक जो है वो है A Fresh Perspective on the Mahabharata, Practical Wisdom on Foreign Affairs and Everyday Lives, जो कि एक बहुत ही नई सोच के साथ लिखी गई है। लेखन के अलावा चित्रकला, नृत्य, संगीत के माध्यम से भी आप अपनी भावनाएं व्यक्त करती हैं। अरुणा जी संस्कृत से जुड़ी अपने कुछ अनुभवों, व्यक्तिगत अनुभवों का साझा करेंगी और ये भी बताएंगी कि संस्कृत पढ़ने से क्या लाभ है। तो अरुणा जी, मैं आपको मंच पर आमंत्रित करता हूँ।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। Thank you, dear Dr. Gautam Sagar ji, for organizing this timely and important event to continue the celebration of 𝗏 Sanskrit Dinam, World Sanskrit Day, and for inviting me to be a part of this exchange, this program. It's a pleasure and an honor for me to join you all. हिंदी और अंग्रेजी दोनों में ही आज लोग बातचीत कर रहे हैं। तो जैसे गौतम जी ने कहा कि शायद अंग्रेजी ज़्यादा लोग समझ सकें, so I would be speaking more in English, and I hope you enjoy this. People sometimes dismiss Sanskrit as a dead language. For me and for my family, however, Sanskrit was and remains a living language. It has played a major part in making us who we are. Let me give you two personal anecdotes, some nice memories, after which I will highlight some of the many wonderful gateways that the knowledge of Sanskrit opens for us to this treasury. And finally, I will share with you a couple of my favorite shlok, Sanskrit verses that remain our family favorite to this day. So first, two personal anecdotes. First, Sanskrit, as I mentioned, as Gautam ji also mentioned, was one of the languages that I grew up with. My mother, Dr. 𝗏𝗏𝗺𝗃𝗃, in fact, was a scholar of the Mahabharata, and she did her PhD and published several books on women characters in the Mahabharata. This was long before such studies became sort of fashionable. Everyone wants to write about these. But this was very long time ago, and it was very special and very first way of putting this subject in her book. While my mother would be doing her research, working at home, I was very small and I wanted to help her. So I would ask her, how can I help you? Please let me help you. You are working so hard. And then she would say, okay, if you want to help me, get those volumes, 1 or 2 or 3, if you can carry, bring them where I'm sitting. So I would go and they were very heavy. So one by one, I would bring those to her and would feel very happy. I thought I know I was bringing to her some amazing riches from the ancient world. The books were very special since then. I should also add that my father, a professor of physics, a scientist, was also proficient in Sanskrit, and he would recite, chant, and teach us many wonderful verses. This is how Sanskrit came and stayed with me as a permanent and much loved part of my life. The second anecdote is about my daughter. My husband, who is also a professor of physics, specializing in superconductivity, he's a scientist, has written many books. So he and I were both very keen for our daughter to be as familiar with Sanskrit as we were. So Sanskrit was among the very first languages she also learned. When other children were reciting nursery rhymes, she would be lisping Sanskrit verses. It turned out that this really helped her with her pronunciation in several other languages also. People often comment on how clear her pronunciation and her diction is so perfect. And she always attributes it to her Sanskrit learning in very early years. So you can see how Sanskrit remains with us, and it helps us throughout our lives. The second point now is why learn Sanskrit? Let me give you, out of many, just 3 good reasons. First, the accuracy and the detail of Sanskrit grammar is just remarkable. Even if you change the sequence of the words in a sentence, the meaning will not change, unlike in most other languages. The precise declination and conjugation of the words give you enough information to render word ordering redundant. The perfection of this grammar is like tonic to the brain. Learn this grammar well, and it gives you an incredible foundation for learning other languages very easily. Second, knowledge of Sanskrit introduces us not only to some beautiful grammatical formulae, but also some of the world's most inspiring literary compositions, both poetry and prose. Through Sanskrit, you get access to profound philosophy. In this language are hidden the secrets of yoga and meditation, and also action and worldly success. We can learn about history, military strategy, environmental protectionism, animal rights, science of politics, as well as Ayurveda, astronomy, and much more. It's a treasure which we must reach. All of us can reach it. It's accessible. And even though there are good translations of some of these texts out there, they are available, not all, but some or many. But nothing compares to the lyrical beauty and the rhythm of the originals, or their calming effect they can have on our mind. Third, and while there are many inspiring sacred and secular texts available in Sanskrit, one is very special, very close to my heart and mind. That is, you can guess, Mahabharata. This is a very important, one of the India's 2 great epics, and is the longest epic in the world. It's huge, but it is so interesting that I like to read it again and again, and I'm sure whoever would do so will also like it. So there are several versions of the Mahabharata because it was carried over for centuries via oral traditions and published later. The definitive one now is known or accessed via critical edition of the Bhandarkar Institute. It is said about Mahabharata, on the subjects of dharma, material pleasures, desire, and salvation. What is written here may be found elsewhere, but what is not in the Mahabharata can be found nowhere else. I will say this in Sanskrit. Dharme charthe cha kame cha mokshe cha 𝗪𝗵𝗺 yadi hasti tadanyatra yanne hasti na tat kvachit. This is a bit exaggeration, I think, but still I can confirm that the insights of the Mahabharata are hugely relevant for questions of foreign policy, international relations, politics, and also for the wisdom that it offers in understanding ethical dilemmas that we face in our everyday lives. So it's very important for scholars as well as any other person to go through this and learn so much from this. My co-authors and I have a book coming on this very topic to be published by Penguin Random House in India in November. And I hope some of you will be interested to read it and will also share your feedback with us. Now I come to the third point, some of my favorite shlokas. I'll just render one this time, this right now, and maybe later if we have time, I can say more. It's a small shlok, but it's very important and currently top favorite in my family. It brings together philosophy, particularly 𝗹𝗵𝗺𝗺 or non-dualism, captures some profound ideas on the nature of the soul and its connect with the divine. And it also used to understand the concept of infinity. It goes like this in Sanskrit. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The recurring word here is Purna. It refers to the divine consciousness, that which is whole, complete, Purna, or completeness. And what it means is the outer world is Purna, the inner world is also Purna. From completeness emerges completeness. Even when Purna is subtracted from Purna, it still is full, entire completeness remains. May peace that echoes through this shlok, this verse, reach all beings, human and non-human, living and those united with the divine. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Arunaji. It was really wonderful listening so many stories, I would say. For me, it becomes like when you get from your parents and to your family. So it looks like the whole family is somehow submerged in the Sanskrit. So बहुत shukriya. And as you talk about the Mahabharata, I think recently I read or heard somewhere that people are citing that probably Krishna was the biggest diplomat or the first diplomat whom we can look upon.
True.
So,
you can learn so much. Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
All topics, all subjects.
Absolutely true. So thank you very much for joining us. And maybe toward the end, as you said, when we will have time, maybe we can have a small chit chat and so on.
Yeah, we can.
So thank you once again. So now moving forward, I would like to invite our next speaker, 𝗀𝗡, joining us from Germany. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Translation and Indology from Leipzig University, Germany, further deepening her expertise with a Master of Arts in Indology, both from the same prestigious institution. Currently, she is a dedicated PhD student specializing in the field of Abhidharma Buddhism at Leibniz University, Germany, under the esteemed guidance of Professor Dr. 𝗀𝗏𝗏. Her academic journey has encompassed diverse areas of study, including classical Sanskrit, Kashmiri Saivism, mythology and ghost, translation of the Bible into Sanskrit, chandas and recitation, spoken Sanskrit and Oriya language and culture. Her passion for Sanskrit has led her to undertake a 5-month study program at Utkal University in Bhubaneswar. Moreover, her dedication to the art of reading manuscript and active participation in several spoken Sanskrit summer schools under Dr. Sadanand Das has further enriched her scholarly journey. In the brief time today we have, She will share insight into her personal journey into the world of Sanskrit, her unwavering motivation to continue her studies about Sanskrit or in Sanskrit, the challenges and reward of learning Sanskrit, the contemporary significance of this ancient language, and why Sanskrit remains not only intriguing but essential for both the general public and the scientific community. Susanne, please.
Namo Namaha. Thank you very much for the introduction. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on for organizing and coordinating this meeting. And it's an honor to speak here today and to be a part of this seminar. And I think personally that it's a great idea to promote Sanskrit and outline its importance. But there's so much to say about this topic and so little time. So I really, really hope that this program will continue in the future and that we will have more such sessions to talk about all the aspects and the properties of Sanskrit. So today I have decided to talk a little bit about my very own experience with Sanskrit and with my Sanskrit learning. So I have come a very long way. And yeah, so I started getting interested in Sanskrit and in Buddhism as such during my last 2 years at school. And that's how I came across a lot of Sanskrit terms and a lot of texts. And later on, when I went to university, I did not directly enroll for Indology studies, but I chose a different major, which was translation. But it has helped me also along my way with Sanskrit texts and how to translate them. But I also decided for a minor subject, and that was Indology. And there we had different languages to choose from, also Tibetan language and Mongolian language, Hindi language. But I decided for Sanskrit because I wanted to properly understand the Buddhist texts that I had read about before during my research at school. And I wanted to also understand the prayers that I had heard before, especially the Heart Sutra. So in fact, in my opinion, it is not difficult to find a reason to be interested in the Sanskrit language. So at our university, I met, during all the years that I've been there, I met a lot of people that are interested in learning the Sanskrit language, and they come from different backgrounds. For example, sinologists, so those people who learn the Chinese language, actually, Chinese language and culture, but also ethnologists and yoga teachers. We have a lot of yoga teachers joining the classes so they can actually understand the terms that they are teaching in their classes. However, all these people, they stay only for a short time, for some semesters only, trying to learn the language. And mostly also the learning of Sanskrit is not very successful for them. And they disappear again, new people are coming, but they don't really stay for completing their bachelor, but they disappear again without having really concluded. So I think it is the most challenging to continue the Sanskrit studies. Lots of people see how difficult the Sanskrit grammar and the structures are, and they give up in their first year already. So I myself have found the motivation to continue, mostly because of my teacher, Dr. Sadananda Das, who has shown me the beauty of the language and the melodious sounds of the recitation of the hymns and the prayers, which has become also a major of my studies. And also the fascinating poetry, the stories like those written by Kalidasa, and the interesting thought concepts of Kashmir Shaivism. And I also got from different teachers and professors, I also got insight into Nyaya philosophy. So for reading and understanding, properly understanding all these texts, a high level of Sanskrit is required. And I am quite disappointed actually to see how many of our students, those who come as bachelors, they stop their studies before they can reach this level of reading the texts. Nevertheless, I think that the Sanskrit language is not more difficult to learn than any other language. So it's not, it is, I think personally, easier than Chinese in some ways, for example. So there are also, for German learners, there are a lot of structures, grammatical structures that we are familiar with already. Because German native speakers, they are familiar with, for example, the long and complicated compounds that every foreigner who comes and wants to learn German, they hate them, they loathe them, because it's very difficult to analyze them and understand what they actually mean and what cases they include. And it's the same thing with Sanskrit. I came across a whole line of compounds that every time you have to find the meaning and find what case it includes. And it's just the same with German, actually. Maybe in German it's not as long, the compounds, but it's very similar. So furthermore, in German language also, we have to add different endings in the cases to the nouns, for example, or we have to use different endings for each person for the verbs. And that, for example, doesn't happen in English. And so we are familiar with this way of also how it works in Sanskrit language. And I think like this, the German student has a better understanding also of the grammar to come, maybe more than English students, but most of the Sanskrit teaching at our university is not held in German. Actually, it is held in English, and we're following very strictly some books that also discourage the students because it's described in a very complicated way. So I myself have also started with a different book, with a very easy book, where you have a very easy approach in the Sanskrit language, and it helped me very much. And I had actually the great luck, and I was fortunate to have such a great teacher as Dr. Sadananda Das, who also agreed on teaching a spoken Sanskrit in our first year already. And approaching the language Sanskrit also like as a spoken language makes it much more easier. And language is not a dead language. Sanskrit is not a dead language as such, as we have always seen, because every year at Leipzig University, we have a spoken Sanskrit summer school, and lots of people from all over the world are joining, and we learn the simple approach of how to make sentences and express our thoughts in Sanskrit. So in the meantime, I have also taught Sanskrit myself, for example, in Hanover at Volkshochschule, and I have collected some ideas how to make Sanskrit learning easier and more interesting for the students. Because in my opinion, also the Sanskrit studies should not only be limited to Indian pupils and students or scholars of philosophy and religion, but it should be open for everyone. Just like any student can learn Russian or Japanese to enrich their knowledge, ancient Indian texts also, they contain a lot of valuable information in different scientific fields. Just think about the medicine and the Ayurvedic studies, the Vedic Mathematics, and so on. So also at our university, there is a professor of economics who came to learn Sanskrit at our department, and that was several years ago. So he really learned Sanskrit. He was able to read ancient Indian texts about economics, and he even constructed a seminar for his own students out of the knowledge that he had gained from these texts. So like this, the knowledge hidden in the Sanskrit scriptures should be also analyzed by modern day scientists and evaluated concerning their importance in our time also. There might be long forgotten wisdom hidden in those texts that could improve modern time science and enrichen our understanding also for Western scholars, because it gives another insight into the science of different fields. And that's why I think it is most interesting also for modern day students of different science fields to learn Sanskrit and have a look into the ancient Sanskrit texts themselves. So it was just a short insight in my in my learning. And now I have continued actually in a completely different field. Actually, it brought me back to the beginning when I studied Buddhism. And now I've come back to study Buddhism, but also my interest in the recitation and in the spoken Sanskrit is just as vivid as it has been before. So thank you very much for your attention and for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It has been a great pleasure, and I hope that we can continue talking about different topics concerning Sanskrit language in the future also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Susanna, for let's say, very valuable information, because that comes from your own experiences about the language, about the learning challenges, and how you say that maybe it is important to also learn spoken Sanskrit. But we have to also keep in mind that it is very good to learn spoken Sanskrit. But what you express, that even if you were not knowing this completely spoken Sanskrit, you already get a lot of value out of it. So we should really try to explore. And about Sanskrit, the very interesting thing is that, what at least is my personal experience, people think that Sanskrit texts are about the religion, about philosophy. But Sanskrit text contains not more than 5% probably about the religion topics and so on. It is a lot about the science, and that we often, let's say, have missed. Recently, this movie came, Oppenheimer, and then again people started talking about it, because when he successfully made the bomb explode, he also used the verses from Gita. So in the past also several, let's say, scientists have been exploring Sanskrit. And even if we go into the past, like a word called Jagat, we call Prithvi, the earth as a Jagat. Jagat in Sanskrit means it has a motion. But in the modern science, we learned quite many years later that the earth has a motion, not the sun. So you are rightly said that as a scientist, our scientific community has more to contribute if we want to bring this language more interesting. So thank you very much, and I'm very much thankful for being for having you here. So thanks once again, Susanna. So now I would like to move forward, and I would like to invite our next guest as श्री देवीलाल मिश्रा जी। तो देवीलाल जी का जन्म पंजाब में हुआ, जहाँ पे इनकी प्राथमिक शिक्षा भी हुई, स्नातक भी इन्होंने वहीं से किया। इन्होंने सनातन धर्म संस्कृत महाविद्यालय से अपनी स्नातक की शिक्षा प्राप्त की, और पंजाब विश्वविद्यालय चंडीगढ़ से शास्त्री की उपाधि इन्हें प्राप्त हुई। इन्होंने बीएड आंध्र प्रदेश से किया, केंद्रीय संस्कृत विद्यापीठ तिरुपति से। तो इन्होंने संस्कृत को ही अपना पूरा जीवन संस्कृत को समर्पित किया, और आप देख सकते हैं कि अंततः ये राजकीय उच्च महाविद्यालय माध्यमिक विद्यालय में वरिष्ठ अध्यापक रहे और वहां से सेवानिवृत्त हुए। इनकी कई पुस्तकें प्रकाशित हुई हैं, जिनमें मैं कहूँगा कि त्रिवेणी और सरल पूजा विधि दो प्रमुख है। और जहाँ तक मुझे पता चला है कि इन्होंने विगत दिनों संस्कृत व्याकरण के ऊपर एक बहुत ही अद्भुत पुस्तक लिखी है, और उनका उद्देश्य है कि कितना आसानी से संस्कृत व्याकरण लोगों तक पहुंचाया जा सके। तो मैं चाहूंगा कि श्री देवीलाल शर्मा जी हमारे बीच संस्कृत व्याकरण संबंधित अपने जो भी उनके जानकारियां हैं हमारे साथ साझा करना चाहते हैं, करें। बहुत बहुत आभार देवीलाल जी।
सभी उपस्थित सज्जनों को देवीलाल शर्मा की तरफ से नमस्कारम। आज संस्कृत विश्व दिवस है, इसलिए सभी को संस्कृत अध्येता हैं, पढ़ने वाले हैं, छात्र हैं, सबको मेरा नमस्कारम। मैं आपको संस्कृत क्यों पढ़नी चाहिए इसके विषय में बताना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि संस्कृत भाषा सभी भाषाओं की, विशेषकर भारत की भाषाओं की जननी है, माता है। इसलिए हम संस्कृत भाषा के सुपुत्र हैं, इसलिए हमें संस्कृत का पूरी तरह से अध्ययन करना चाहिए। इसलिए मैंने अपने 47 वर्ष की सेवा संस्कृत अध्ययन के लिए की है और अंततः मैं संस्कृत अध्यापन करते हुए और अपने राजस्थान सरकार से सेवानिवृत्त हुआ हूँ। इस विषय में भी मैंने संस्कृत के विषय में छात्रों का अनेक प्रकार से मार्गदर्शन किया है और कई संस्कृत की पुस्तकें मैंने लिखी हैं, जिसमें संस्कृत के व्याकरण जो आज मेरे इस समय प्रकाशित है, एक अद्भुत व्याकरण है, जिसमें आप किसी भी शब्द के ध्वनि के अनुसार एकारांत है, उसके अनुसार पुल्लिंग है, स्त्रीलिंग है, उनकी ध्वनियों के अनुसार पुस्तकों की एक सारणी लिखी है, जिसमें आप शब्द डालें और शब्द अपने आप रेडीमेड होकर के तैयार होकर बाहर निकलेगा। इसलिए इस संस्कृत के अध्ययन में छात्रों को विशेष लाभ होगा कि उन्हें संस्कृत के धातु रूप, शब्द रूप, क्रिया विशेषण आदि का ज्ञान सम्यक प्रकार से होगा। इस ऐसी मेरी धारणा है। मैं चाहता हूं कि सभी लोग संस्कृत को अपनी भाषाओं को समृद्ध करने के लिए, जब तक हम संस्कृत को अच्छी तरह से नहीं पढ़ेंगे, हमें अपनी भाषा जैसे हिंदी है, हिंदी का भी अच्छी तरह ज्ञान नहीं होगा जब तक आप संस्कृत को नहीं जानेंगे। आप भारत की अनेक भाषाओं को सुनिए, देखिए, जिसमें संस्कृत के 95% शब्द संस्कृत के होते हैं। यदि हम अपनी भाषा को संस्कृत भाषा से समृद्ध करेंगे तो संस्कृत पढ़ना अत्यावश्यक है। इसलिए मैं चाहता हूं कि सभी विद्यार्थीगण संस्कृत अपने विशेष रूप से अध्ययन करें। संस्कृत में व्याकरण का ध्यान स्थान है, इसलिए व्याकरण अवश्य ही संस्कृत की पढ़नी चाहिए, जिससे भाषा में समृद्धि आती है, भाषा की शुद्धता को प्राप्त करता है। हाँ जी, संस्कृत
ये आपकी आवाज आ रही है?
संस्कृत के ध्वनियां, संस्कृत के जो माहेश्वर सूत्र हैं 14, उनसे विश्व की कोई भी भाषा की ध्वनि है, उसका उच्चारण कहाँ से होता है, किस प्रकार होता है, ऐसा पाणिनि जी के वो 14 श्लोक हैं, जहाँ भगवान शंकर ने नृत्य के पश्चात नृत्यावसाने नटराज राजो ननाद ढंका नव पंचवारम, उन्होंने नृत्य के अवसान अपने डमरू से, शिव जी ने डमरू बजाया, जिससे उसकी 14 ध्वनियां निकली और उन ध्वनियों में दुनिया की कोई भी लैंग्वेज हो, कोई किसी प्रकार की ध्वनि हो, उसको लिपिबद्ध किया और निश्चित रूप से उनका ध्वनि कहाँ से निकलती है, उसके शब्द का उच्चारण कहाँ से होता है, और इसकी व्यवस्था की। तो ये संस्कृत का प्रारंभिक ज्ञान है, जिसे अवश्य सीखना चाहिए, और जो इस प्रकार के अध्ययन करेगा वो संस्कृत को आराम से दूसरी भाषाओं का शुद्ध उच्चारण करना भी सीख जाएगा, क्योंकि ध्वनियां तो सभी भाषा में वही हैं। ए है, ए है, आ है, तो ये सारे समान रूप से सभी भाषाओं में इनका उच्चारण होता है। इसलिए संस्कृत का अध्ययन करने के लिए संस्कृत के व्याकरण को अवश्य अच्छी प्रकार से करना चाहिए।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपको अपने बातों को साझा करने के लिए और संस्कृत व्याकरण की महत्ता को बताने के लिए। तो बहुत बहुत आभार देवीलाल जी, आपने अच्छे से बताया और समझाया, और ये भी बताया कि कैसे संस्कृत हमारे देश की बाकी भाषाओं की जननी रही है। तो बहुत बहुत आभार, जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
नमस्कार।
नमस्कार। तो अब मैं आगे बढ़ते हुए बुलाना चाहूंगा अपने सबसे यंग स्पीकर को. So I would like to now invite Ravi Shah. Ravi was born in Bihar, brought up in West Bengal, high school in Rajasthan, college in Odisha, and presently working in Telangana. So he is a truly Indian guy. So Ravi pursued his BTech from KIIT University in mechanical engineering and has done MBA in business analytics from BITS Pilani. And during his time in KIIT University, he has already worked a lot with the Vedic mathematics, and he was also doing some engaging young kids in Vedic mathematics and showing that what is the advantage of it. So today, at this time, he is working in Hyderabad as an investor and business analyst for well-visioned group of companies. Nevertheless, his heart always beats for Vedic mathematics. And we have also some great ideas how to bring it further, but we are not going to talk about that. But today we want to listen from Ravi. How does he see the relation between Vedic math and Sanskrit? So Ravi, a stage is yours.
बहुत धन्यवाद sir. So as per the informations which I have gathered for around 40 minutes, my mind is actually very much still taking time to take so much of information. For example, हमारे देवीलाल शास्त्री जी ने, as he told about the Damru of the Shiva, from where all the voices and notes of the pronunciation of Sanskrit mantras came. I actually was thinking since then that have I ever heard the music of a Damru, because I myself is a percussionist player. I play the drums, my cajon, but I have not yet heard the voice of the real Damru. So I'm actually very much curious to know actually how just from the Damru those pronunciations were happened. So anyways, it's a very informative session, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So today we are here to appreciate and celebrate one of the finest language. First, let's understand how a language works. So language shares informations, intentions, etc. And to share that, we need some form of audio, visuals, anything. So I can't just sit like that and expect someone to understand what I want to say. I will have to do some kind of audio or visuals. So as a I'm an enthusiast. I'm an enthusiast of all the good aspects which are present in this universe, in this world. So as I was talking about the language, so when just a second, sir, I'm forgetting the name. Dr. Aruna ma'am. So as Dr. Aruna ma'am mentioned about the shlok Om Purnamada Purnamidam. So for me, Sanskrit, hearing Sanskrit is like a very peaceful experience. It has not yet been so much of a meaningful interpretation for me. I am hearing some Sanskrit slokas and my mind is going at a very peaceful state. That is it. So you can see the power of the language. And now when Dr. Aruna actually explained what does that shloka mean, Om Purnamidam Purnamida. So I'm able to sense the completeness of that. So once which I used to just feel good about the language and about the shloks, now I'm able to also understand that what does that mean and how much it's important. So Sanskrit, as lovely as the name of this language is, equally useful are the qualities of this language, which is called Sanskrit. So luckily our generation have access to at least a very minimalistic source of divine knowledge in the form of Upanishads, Ved, Indian philosophy, that is Bharatiya Darshan, Ayurveda. So this Indian philosophy, Ayurveda, almost all of my esteemed speakers have at least used the word. But there are also books which tells us about art, poetry, as Suzanne ma'am very correctly mentioned about Kalidas. So we are also into art, poetry, astronomy, Viman Shastra, knowledge of flying machines, occult sciences, Vedic mathematics, which is one of them, etc., which needs a systematic decoding, demystifying, and extracting all forms of knowledge from all of these books and establish a research and development unit for knowing what is unknown. And the only barrier which at present is stopping our modern generation to be able to know these branches of science is a proper and complete knowledge of the language in which those texts are written. For example, Ayurveda. So Ayurveda has a very prominent kitab, Ashtanga-Hridayam. So to understand Ashtanga-Hridayam, you need to know Sanskrit, because we have interpretations, we have translations. But so I'll tell you one more thing, what Sanskrit actually does, with a little story which I would like to tell about me. So when I was in class 12th, I was very much into studying sciences. As sir also mentioned, I'm a science background student. And while studying physics, I every time got a link to spirituality, that some answers which I am not able to fetch from physics, I'm getting through it, spirituality. So in this direction, when my mind started to work, I came to know somehow that some, like one senior name, he told me, like I would like to say it in Hindi, that अरे वेद में सारे ज्ञान है, तुमको सब कुछ जानना है, वेद पढ़ लो, तुमको सब आ जाएगा. So that is a very big statement, that how can just a set of 4 books can give you the knowledge of everything? How can is that, like, how can that be possible? So I'll give you an example of Vedic mathematics right now. So Vedic maths, as we all know, was written and taken from the Vedas. So in Vedic mathematics, there are around 16 sutras, which are decoded, and then we are extracting mathematics out of them. So Vedic mathematics and its sutras are not something written in the Vedas. It is derived from the Vedas. And I'm yet to explore and know how Vedas actually work. So if we are extracting this Vedic mathematics from the language Sanskrit and the Vedas, so it means that there are many kind of informations which we can extract. That is why I used the word demystifying. Now, for example, Suzanne ma'am told one of her experiences when where an economics professor went into her department to learn Sanskrit. I am 95% sure that the book which that economics professor wanted to read was Kautilya's Arthashastra. He wanted to decode Kautilya Arthashastra, because of which he wanted to know Sanskrit first. So this is how, you know, like Vedic mathematics, it was derived from Sanskrit. Now, for example, I'll just come to my story. So what happened was that I was very much inclined towards science, and I was getting answers from spirituality. So someone told me that all the knowledge are in Vedas. So I very innocently and very naively, I followed that, and I went to a library. I asked for the books. Okay, like mujhe sab jana, I wanted to know everything, give me the books. So after reading the book, the disappointment which I felt that day is still fresh today, unless and until someday I learned Sanskrit. Because as I was reading the texts, it was like, what am I reading? It is same like Dr. Aruna's Poornima wala shlok. I'm not able to understand anything. So Sanskrit that day felt very disappointing and very, I was very sad to know that. But why, like, why is it that it is such an important book written and we have not been studying that, or at least the language in which I should know it has not been like studied yet? So after that, so basically today also I am not able to gain any meaning from any of the shlokas or something. So I don't know Sanskrit, but as I said, I'm an enthusiast of Sanskrit and its texts, whether it's the Veds, Upanishads, Ayurveda, and Vedic mathematics. So Vedic mathematics actually very much interested me somehow because of its sutras basically. So Vedic mathematics is a 16 simple sutra formula derived from the Vedas, as I told, written by His Holiness Jagat Guru Shankaracharya Shri Bharati Krishna Tirath Maharaj Ji of Govardhan Mutt, Puri, Odisha. In this, mathematics is taught in such a way that our brain has been designed to function. So there are many ways of calculations. Previously, people used to do calculation using sticks. Then they used to make marks on the walls. So our mind is designed in a way to calculate, and those 16 sutras gives us those only. For example, like just a simple calculation, 23 into 11. So Vedic mathematics, if you decode the sutra, you will get that. Just write 2 and 3 here, and just add 2 and 3 and write 5 in between. 253 will be the answer. 39 into 11, 429. So don't confuse me that, okay, I'm a Vedic mathematics expert and I know, you just give me calculations. No, please don't expect that. But at least I am in such a position that I wish to deliver this knowledge. There are many things, Ayurveda, Upanishads, everything. But I started with this because me being a science background student, and I was very much fascinated with this aspect of calculation. So I'm starting with this. Kautilya's Arthashastra, as Suzanne ma'am's professor, I like that is also in my list to study. But yes, I very much appreciate the fact of me having born in India to be able to at least gather some information about our language, and very much thankful to FOID that at least in Germany, they are able to not exactly promote. See, this language is nothing, this language is not that sort which would need marketing or advertisement that, oh, this hamara language kitna acha hai, aao sikho. No, it is something which is self-realized. So just, I would request everyone or anyone who is listening to it, just take a few texts from Vedas, Mahabharata, anywhere, and just sit and just realize its meaning. What does it mean? You can take help of anyone. FOID will also help you. So in that, you will be able to know that how beautiful the language is and how many interpretations from one shloka you can actually gather a scientific explanation, spiritual explanation, economical explanation as well. Because linking of the studies, so for us, science is different, commerce is different, economics is different. No, these are all forms of knowledge, and it can be derived from the same shlok in different ways. So this is one of the ways I think Sanskrit works. And Sanskrit Dimas also reminds us on the first step towards true knowledge. And this day, since we are kind of appreciating and celebrating Sanskrit Divas, it reminds us on the first step towards true knowledge. It is the Patan Patan of the language Sanskrit, that is the education which will include teaching and learning of the language Sanskrit and its associated texts. I would really like to thank FOID for taking these initiatives of imparting knowledge, which is a bit unconventional, but somehow this knowledge makes our life conventional and worth living. Thank you, FOID, and thank you, Gautam sir.
So thank you very much, Ravi, for sharing your thoughts about the Sanskrit Day and your own experiences. So I just want to add what you said is that, like you said, you learned Sanskrit. I also learned Sanskrit in the school time. So now what I wonder is that why I could not get the enthusiasm or interest in Sanskrit as much I got in science. And that led to do my doctorate in science, and I'm earning my food from science. Though there is a lot of science in Sanskrit. So I'm always now dwelling what went wrong. Was it me? Was it the system? Was it the curriculum? But somehow I feel pity. I learned Sanskrit, and the target was like, it is a language, a literature. So that is how I perceived that time. I never got the impression that that could be a very strong tool to explore in science as well. So this information never reached to me. So I'm just wondering that how can we, those who realize our mistake now, can do a bit. So that is what I'm trying to do this. Many people might think that we all are talking in English and talking about the Sanskrit. So this is how the situation is as of now. So if someone would be a very good speaker in Sanskrit, then you would not be able to be here and understand. So we have to understand the science of Sanskrit a lot, and whichever tool we need, maybe I consider English as a tool to get into it. Like to understand the science, we use language of mathematics that crosses the boundary. So if we can somehow get inspired or inspire someone over the period of time so that they don't fall into the same mistake as we did, that would be, I think, a great success, even if we can change for 1 or 2. So with that note, I will say that we have reached to the end, but nevertheless, today is a Sanskrit Day celebration we are doing, and we all share. So if anyone would like to share any slokas toward the end, raise your hand, and I would try to end with the slokas. And what I learned also that in Sanskrit is a language where you can have a sloka with only one consonant. So this I found several. So if any one of you remember those kind of slokas, that will be great. Nevertheless, any other sloka that suits to the occasion will be really nice. So anyone who want to end with a sloka, maybe Suzanne or Devilalji or Arunaji, anyone?
Gautam sir.
Ravi has put his hand up. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so actually I thought of this, that can we at least use two basic communication for our viewers to see? For example, we can say that आपका नाम क्या है? आपने खाना खाया या नहीं खाया? Can we just translate into
maybe
into
that is great.
Yes.
आपका नाम क्या है? और yeah.
संस्कृत में कैसे उसको बोलेंगे, उसका रिप्लाई कैसे देंगे? आई थिंक आप लोग प्लीज ये करके हमारे व्यूअर्स जो भी रहेंगे वो कम से कम 2-3 स्टेटमेंट सीख के तो जाएंगे संस्कृत का।
So maybe मैं इसके लिए अपने शिक्षक महोदय को बुलाना चाहूंगा। So मैं देवीलाल जी से अनुरोध करूंगा कि वो हमें मदद करें इसमें। आपका नाम क्या है?
पूछिए, आपका नाम क्या है? संस्कृत।
If someone want to say what is your name, how we say in Sanskrit?
तब नाम किम ध्येयम, तब नाम ध्येयम किम, नाम ध्येयम या नाम, तब नाम किम,
तब नाम किम।
हाँ, तुम्हारा नाम क्या है? कस्मिन् कक्षायां पठसि, कौन सी कक्षा में पढ़ते हो? किम भोजनम कृतं वा, क्या भोजन कर लिया है?
कैसे बोलेंगे इसको शास्त्री जी?
किम भोजनम कृतं भवता, क्या आपने, भवता माने आपने भोजन कर लिया है? आम, हाँ, मया कृतं भोजनम, मैंने भोजन कर लिया है।
मैं आकृतम भोजनम।
How to say कि it was a nice event, so we enjoyed event. How can we write say in Sanskrit कि आज का ये उत्सव अच्छा लगा? क्या आप सुन पा रहे हैं देवीलाल जी?
हाँ, बोलिए। क्या
मैं बोल रहा था कि हम कैसे बोलें कि आज का यह कार्यक्रम अच्छा लगा? इसको
आज का ये कार्यक्रम अच्छा लगा संस्कृत में।
अद्य संस्कृत कार्यक्रमम अति शोभनम।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, बहुत धन्यवाद। Suzanne, would you like to say couple of phrases in German and translate in Sanskrit? Whichever you like. Maybe what's your name? Same thing, like wie heißt du? Ja, wie heißen Sie?
Okay. Mein Name ist Susanne. Mama Name Susanne. Ich bin eine Studentin der Universität Leipzig. Aham Leipzig 𝗧विद्यालयस्य छात्रा।
विद्यालयस्य छात्रा। अहम विश्वविद्यालयस्य छात्रा अस्मि। यदि भवता स्त्री तदा
छात्रा,
छात्रा, न तो छात्र है।
छात्रा, अहम विश्वविद्यालयस्य छात्रा।
हाँ, हाँ, इति तु शोभनं, शुद्धं संस्कृतं।
Leipzig विश्वविद्यालयस्य छात्रा।
बहुत बढ़िया सुजाने। अरुणा जी, आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे?
कोई श्लोक, छोटा सा श्लोक बोलते हैं।
जी, बहुत बढ़िया।
जी, भगवद गीता। जी बिल्कुल।
इस श्लोक के साथ ही कार्यक्रम की हम समाप्ति कर देंगे।
जी, भगवद गीता आप सब जानते हैं कि आप बार बार पढ़ें, हर बार, जैसे आपने बहुत अच्छा बताया रवि जी ने, कि हर बार आपको नया कुछ मीनिंग दिखेगा उसमें। आप एक बार पढ़ें, 2 बार उसी श्लोक को तो और कुछ दिखेगा, तीसरी बार भी और पता लगेगा। तो बहुत ही बड़ी चीज है भगवद गीता। छोटा सा प्रोग्राम था, 10 मिनट के समय में नाम भी नहीं बता सकते पुस्तकों के संस्कृत की। तो बहुत बड़ा इसमें भंडार है, खजाना है ये। और गीता तो, गीता का साथ तो बहुत ही बड़ी चीज है रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में, और हमेशा हर तरह से बहुत ही बड़ा ये फिलॉसफी है ये। तो इसका एक श्लोक है आखिरी, यत्र योगेश्वरः कृष्णो यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्री विजयो भूतिर ध्रुवा नीतिर्मतिर्मम। आप समझ गए होंगे, बहुत कठिन नहीं है।
यत्र
जहाँ पर
योगेश्वर कृष्ण वर्तते तत्र विजया भूतिर्भविष्यति।
जी,
निश्चितं विजयं भविष्यति।
निश्चितं भवति, बिल्कुल सही। Where there is Lord Krishna, the master of sages who knows yoga, Yogeshwar, where this greatest archer, Arjun the Dhanurdhar, there are prosperity, victory, power and justice. Of this I am certain. जैसे अभी देवीलाल जी ने बोला कि निश्चय ही यहाँ पर विजय होगी इन अच्छी चीजों की। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। तो कार्यक्रम को समाप्त करने के पहले बहुत सारे लोगों ने फेसबुक लाइव देखा, कुछ लोगों ने कुछ कमेंट दिया है, तो वो मैं पढ़ के यहाँ पे सुनाना चाहता हूँ। तो शिप्रा जी ने भी लिखा है, अरुणा नार्लिकर दी, ऑलवेज प्लेजर टू लिसन यू। शिप्रा जी ने लिखा बहुत सुंदर। और राहुल साहा जुड़े, वो उन्होंने भी बहुत सराहना की। 𝗪𝗵𝗿𝗺 ने उन्होंने बहुत सराहना की, कहा कि एक्सीलेंट सेशन गोइंग ऑन। प्रीति राज जुड़ी, ऋतिका रश्मि जुड़ी, रचित्रा कुमारी, उन्होंने कहा वंडरफुल सेशन। मुकुंद पुरानिक, थैंक्स आई जस्ट गॉट द लिंक। तो उसके बाद वो जुड़े और उन्होंने काफी सराहना की है। रचित्रा कुमारी, वंडरफुल सेशन। मुकुंद पुरानिक भी जुड़े, अश्विनी काग्योंकर भी जुड़ी, और भी बहुत सारे लोग जुड़े जिन्होंने इसकी काफी सराहना की इस कार्यक्रम की। तो हम लोगों ने एक छोटी सी शुरुआत की है, ये कोई बहुत बड़ा कार्यक्रम नहीं था, बस एक सोच थी। उस सोच को हमने कार्यान्वित किया और आप सभी लोगों ने सहयोग दिया, जिसके लिए बहुत बहुत आभार। जो लोग देख रहे थे उनका भी बहुत आभार, और जो कल बाद में इसे देखेंगे, अपनी प्रतिक्रियाएं देंगे, उनका भी अभी से तहे दिल से शुक्रिया। इसी के साथ इस कार्यक्रम का समापन करते हैं। सो वी आर गोइंग टू फिनिश नाउ दिस प्रोग्राम विद दिस। We gave all the thank note to everyone, Susanna. So thank you once again and wish you a very nice day. Thank you very much. Namaste.
नमस्ते पंथाने संतो।
जी नमस्ते।